Okey, kita teruskan kepada pengenalan Institutionalism School, iaitu yang seperti yang kita tahu, Institutionalism School ni adalah salah satu sumbangan Amerika kepada pemikiran ekonomi yang bermula sekitar 1900 dan berterusan sehingga kini. Menjelang tahun 1900, Thorsten Veblen iaitu pengasas kepada Institutionalist School ini telah menerbitkan satu buku pertamanya serta banyak lagi artikel dan ulasan buku yang lain. Dapat lagi dua ekonomis yang juga telah menyumbang kepada pengasasan Institutionalist School ini seperti Wesley C. Mitchell dan John K. Gabriel yang kita akan rumuskan sebentar lagi. Okey, seterusnya kita pergi pula kepada historical background. Kapitalis Amerika mempunyai pencapaian yang mengagumkan dalam tempoh antara Civil War dan World War I. Pertumbuhan pesat ini menjadikan Amerika Syarikat salah satu sistem perindustrian terbesar dan paling berkuasa. Walau bagaimanapun, peningkatan keadaan hidup ramai orang kelas pekerja, iaitu leisure class, adalah masih jauh lagi di dunia daripada memenuhi aspirasi mereka, iaitu kerana masa buruh adalah masih panjang, perumahan selalunya tidak mencukupi, keselamatan semasa sakit dan pengangguran dan hari tua juga diabaikan. Kebanyakan pekerja juga masih tidak mendapat akses kepada pendidikan yang lebih tinggi dan tidak wujud jaminan kepada pekerjaan. Peraturan kesihatan dan keselamatan juga masih tidak mencukupi di Amerika Syarikat. Majikan mengatur syarikat dan mendominasi kehidupan peribadi pekerja. Di sini kita dapat nampaklah bahawa pekerja ni tidak ada dia orang punya privacy kerana syarikat mendominasi kehidupan peribadi pekerja. Seterusnya adalah melemahkan kadar gaji, cukai lebih regresif, riba masih berleluasa dan kemelesetan masih berlaku. Okey, seterusnya kita pergi pula kepada zaman monopoli, di mana zaman ini telah dimulakan pada sekitar tahun 1870-an dan telah dipercepatkan pada sekitar pergantian abad. Kerajaan negeri dan persekutuan yang telah mengisytiharkan laissez-faire ini telah berkenan dengan pekerjaan minat untuk cepat menggunakan polis dan militeri menentang buruh dalam pertikaian industri. Kerajaan negeri dan persekutuan juga telah bermurah hati dalam mewujudkan perlindungan tarif untuk penjagaan dan pemberian subsidi yang besar kepada pembinaan jalan kereta api. Namun pada akhir abad ke-19, ahli ekonomi ini telah mula mempersoalkan konsep laissez-faire, iaitu doktrin bahawa campur tangan kerajaan yang minimum telah menghasilkan kesejahteraan sosial yang maksimum, tapi semakin kelihatan tidak dapat dipertahankan. Jadi, kebimbangan tentang monopoli, kemiskinan, kemurungan dan pembaziran pergerakan untuk kawalan sosial dan reformasi ini sedang mengumpulkan momentum dan ia adalah dalam persekitaran institusi ekonomi yang mula berkembang. Okey, berikut adalah kaedah yang telah digunakan untuk mencapai perubahan dalam sosial ini. Okey, yang pertama adalah dengan menyusun semula masyarakat mengikut garis sosial, iaitu dengan memperbaiki keadaan melalui campur tangan kerajaan dalam ekonomi. Yang kedua pula adalah dengan menjalankan pembaharuan sosial. Objektif pendekatan ini adalah untuk menyelamatkan kapitalisme dengan memperbaiki keadaan orang ramai. Okey, seterusnya kita lihat pengaruh German Historical School terhadap institutionalism Amerika. Okey, seperti yang kita tahu pada awalnya, ahli ekonomi institusi ini telah mengkritik pergerakan sosial dan melihat kepada pembinaan semula masyarakat secara radikal. Pengaruh German Historical School (GHS) terhadap institutionalism Amerika adalah agak ketara. Kebanyakan pemimpin Persatuan Ekonomi Amerika 1885 akrab dan mesra dengan gerakan Jerman dan metodologinya. Ya, jadi beberapa guru dan rakan sekerja Veblen pernah belajar di Jerman, iaitu seperti John Clark yang telah merumuskan akidah reformasi Kristian yang mempunyai banyak persamaan dengan pemikiran reformis Jerman. Seterusnya pula adalah George S. Morris, iaitu salah seorang Hegelian yang telah dilatih dalam bahasa Jerman University. Dan yang ketiga adalah Richard T. Ely yang telah belajar di bawah beberapa ahli ekonomi secara terkemuka di Jerman dan telah menjadi orang yang percaya dengan kelebihan kaedah induktif berbanding kaedah diduktif. Walau bagaimanapun, terdapat persamaan tertentu dalam metodologi antara German Historical School dan Institutionalism American, yang mana keduanya adalah tidak nasionalistik tetapi lebih liberal dan demokratik dalam pandangannya.
Hello and Assalamualaikum everyone. I would like to presenting major tenets, which is the first one is holistic broad perspective, motivated individually and mechanically by the desire for maximum monetary gain. In economic activity, there are also patterns of collective action that are greater than the sum of the parts. A union, for example, develops a character, an ideology, and a method of operation of its own. Secondly, focus on institution. The school emphasized the role of institution in economic life. An institution is not merely an organization or establishment for the promotion of a particular objective, like a school, prison, a union, or Federal Reserve Bank. It is also an organized pattern of group behavior, well established and accepted as a fundamental part of the culture. It includes customs, social habits, laws, mode of thinking, and ways of living. Slavery and a belief in slavery were institutions. Other examples are the belief in laissez-faire or unionism, or a government social security system. Group social behavior and the thought patterns that influence it are more German to economic analysis than is especially interested in analyzing. The institutionalists were especially interested in analyzing and reforming the institution of credit, monopoly, absentee ownership, labor management relation, social security, and the distribution of income. Next is evolutionary approach by Darwin. Evolutionary approach should be used in economic analysis because society and its institutions are constantly changing. The institutionalists disagree with the static viewpoint that sought to discover internal economic truths without regard for difference of time and place, without concern for change that were occurring constantly. Instead of asking, what is, the institutionalists ask, how did we get here and where are we going? The evolution and functioning of economic institutions should be the central theme in economics. This approach requires knowledge not only of economy but also of history, cultural anthropology, political science, sociology, philosophy, and psychology. Next is rejection of idea of normal equilibrium rather than idea of equilibrium. Institutionalists emphasize the principle of circular causation or cumulative change that may be either salutary or harmful in seeking economic and social goals. Maladjustment in economic life are not departures from normal equilibrium, but rather are themselves normal. Before World War II, the outstanding maladjustment was the business slump, which is unemployment and inflation. In the late 1970s, the problem became stagflation, the simultaneous occurrence of inflation and unemployment. Whereas in the mid-1980s, problem of trade deficit and federal budget deficit arose. The institutionalists are convinced that collective control through government are necessary to continually correct and overcome deficiencies and maladjustment in economic life. Next is clash of interests. Instead of the harmony of interest that most of their contemporaries and predecessors deduct from their theories, the institutionalists recognize serious difference of interest. People said the institutionalists are cooperative, collective creatures. They organize themselves into groups for the members' mutual self-interest, which becomes the common interest of the group. They are, however, clash of interest between groups such as big business against small business, consumer against producer, farmers against urban dwellers, employers against workers, and many more. Here again, a representative and impartial government must reconcile or override clashing interests for the common good and for the efficient working of the economic system. Next is liberal democratic reform. The institutionalists expose reforms in order to bring about the more equitable distribution of wealth and income. They deny that market price and adequate indices of individual and social welfare and that unregulated markets lead to the efficient allocation of resources and a just distribution of income. The institutionalists invariably condemn laissez-faire and favor a larger role for government in economy and social affairs. Last but not least, for major tenets for institutionalist school is rejection of pleasure pain psychology. The institutionalists repudiate the Benthamic underpinnings of economic analysis. They reach out instead for a better psychology, and some of them incorporate Freudian and behaviorist idea into their. So, within the idea from institutionalist school, whom did institutionalism benefit or seek to benefit, which is in this who is more get benefit is middle class. The school embodied the middle class desire for reform in an era of growing big business and banker capitalism. It represents the needs and interests of agrarian, small business, and labor groups. Government workers, reformers, humanitarians, leaders of consumer organizations, and union members were attracted to the institutionalist idea, which they hope might alter their orientation of private business enterprise in favor of their own interests. Many academicians in fields other than economics praise the institutionalist interdisciplinary focus and their advocacy of social change. Next is how was the institutionalist school valid or useful or correct in this time, in this era. So, the middle class desire for reform in an era of big business. So, looking at the economy as a whole as part of an evolutionary process and in an institutionally setting at element of realism to economic analysis. So, this institution school is as an element of realism in our economic analysis from because sebelum ini tiada elemen institution ni. So, concern over business cycle and monopolies. So, why institution is still valid? It is because this institution or still concerned over business cycle and monopolies. Therefore, this institutionalist school promote a reform movement that effectively remove many of the rough edge of capitalism. So, from this institutionalist school, they do many analysis economics to make a reform movement that effectively in capitalism. And lastly, emphasize on inductive study to reduce the gap between economic theory and practice.
The next is I'm going to explain about which tenets of the institutional school become lasting contribution. First is we are going to look at the holistic broad perspective. which means become a reality within the economy mainstream with the appearance of widespread acceptance of the Keynesian macroeconomics. In fact, with their aggregate approach, prescription for stabilization economy and their attraction to politic liberals, Keynesianism and also post-Keynesianism tended to a co-op and superseded institutionalism. And lastly, it's explained about the metaphor of six blind men and the elephant to reveal the weaknesses of the microeconomics, which is the uh, images shows that the blind man over the elephants shows the weaknesses of the microeconomics. Next, we move to the reform movement, which is the modest steps towards national economic planning for limited objectives such as conservation and also full employment are in the line of the institutional thought. Legal protection of unionism, social insurance, minimum wage, and also maximum hour legislations are all the legacies of the Institute challenge to orthodox economic thinking. Lasting contribution of the institutional found in other fields also, which is labor relation, law and economics, and also industrial organization. Next is the traditional institutional economics still present within the US today, which is the membership of the Association of Evolutionary Economy is largely composed of the economics who are oriented towards institutional method, policy perspective, and also both. They had published the Journal of Economics issues. However, the overall penetration of institutional into the mainstream of the economics remained the modest.
Berikut adalah tiga ahli ekonomis yang menyumbang kepada Institutionalist School. Yang pertama adalah Thorstein Boone Veblen, yang kedua adalah Wesley Clay Mitchell dan yang ketiga adalah John Kenneth Galbraith. Okey, mari kita lihat Thorstein Boone Veblen yang dilahirkan pada 1857 dan meninggal dunia pada 1929. Okey, Thorstein Boone Veblen ataupun Veblen merupakan anak kepada pendatang Norway yang dilahirkan di ladang sempadan di Wisconsin dan dibesarkan di luar bandar Minnesota. Beliau telah menamatkan pendidikan di Kolej Sarjana Muda di Carleton College, Minnesota, di mana beliau adalah pelajar J.B. Clark. Kerja siswa azahnya telah dilakukan di Johns Hopkins di mana dia gagal mendapatkan beasiswa dan di Yale di mana dia menerima ijazah kedoktoran dalam bidang falsafah. Walau bagaimanapun, tiada jawatan akademik tersedia untuknya, terutamanya kerana dia memegang pandangan agnostik. Pada masa ijazah ketuhanan dianggap sebagai prasyarat yang wajar untuk falsafah pengajaran. Setelah menerima beasiswa di University Chicago untuk kerja pasca doktoral, beliau menjadi editor jurnal ekonomi politik di Chicago. Veblen tidak pernah mencapai pangkat profesor penuh walaupun 11 bukunya dan reputasi dunianya yang kekal. Terdapat tiga teori yang telah diperkenalkan oleh Veblen ni. Yang pertama adalah conspicuous consumption, iaitu penggunaan yang ketara. Veblen berpendapat bahawa leisure class terlibat dalam rampasan barangan pemangsa tanpa bekerja untuk mereka. Mereka yang mengumpul kekayaan berbuat demikian bukan semata-mata untuk menjaga kehendak fizikal mereka, malah estetika rohani dan kehendak intelek mereka. Sebaliknya, mereka ingin mengambil dengan cara yang memaparkan kekayaan mereka kerana dengan menunjukkan kekayaan, menunjukkan kuasa, prestij, penghormatan dan kejayaan dalam budaya kewangan mereka. Ini menunjukkan mereka berada di tahap yang tertinggi. Jadi, untuk bereputasi, penggunaan sedemikian mestilah membazir. Jadi orang yang lebih miskin pula, dia mesti bekerja untuk terus hidup. Tapi corak perbelanjaan mereka juga termasuk penggunaan pembaziran yang ketara. Pandangan mereka terhadap kehidupan telah dikenakan oleh leisure class yang dominan. Jadi untuk kita dilihat sebagai orang yang kaya, kita mestilah melakukan satu pembaziran. Maksudnya bila kita membazir, bila kita beli sesuatu dengan melakukan pembaziran, ini dapat lihat bahawa kita ni banyak duit lah. Kita boleh purchase something, purchase banyak benda. Yang kedua pula adalah propensity to avoid useful work, iaitu kecenderungan untuk mengelakkan kerja yang berguna. Ahli leisure class ni, dia mesti menggalakkan kerja yang berguna dan produktif. Mereka mesti melakukan tugas yang membazir atau sia-sia saja jika mereka mahu kekal dan berwibawa. Jadi, pekerjaan ini adalah kerajaan, peperangan, sukan dan ibadah yang taat. Motif leisure class ni dalam melibatkan diri dalam pekerjaan ini bukanlah peningkatan kekayaan dalam melalui usaha yang produktif. Jadi, kerajaan dan peperangan sekurang-kurangnya sebahagiannya dijalankan untuk mengawal keuntungan kewangan mereka yang terlibat di dalamnya. Tetapi ia adalah keuntungan yang diperolehi dengan kaedah penyitaan dan penukaran. Jadi diorang ni join macam kerajaan dengan diorang join peperangan ni bukan diorang nak membantu orang macam tu, tapi diorang macam ambil kesempatan diorang nak menyita barang-barang orang yang miskin ni sebab diorang nak ambil keuntungan daripada tu. Okey, yang ketiga adalah konservatism, iaitu Veblen telah menegaskan bahawa evolusi struktur sosial telah menjadi proses pemilihan semula jadi institusi. Kemajuan boleh dikaitkan dengan kemandirian tabiat pemikiran yang paling sesuai dan penyesuaian yang dikuasakan individu kepada persekitaran yang berubah-ubah. Okey, institusi ini mesti berubah dengan keadaan semasa yang berubah. Tapi pembangunan institusi ini mewakili pembangunan masyarakat. Walau bagaimanapun, terdapat konflik yang berlaku antara kepercayaan semasa dengan keperluan semasa yang disebabkan oleh budaya ketinggalan dalam proses perubahan ini. Kelas masyarakat yang terlindung daripada kuasa persetaraan akan menyesuaikan pandangannya dengan lebih perlahan untuk diubah dengan proses perubahan sosial, tetapi juga akan melambatkannya. Sikap siri dari kelas ini ditunjukkan dalam pepatah bahawa apapun adalah betul. So, bertentangan dengan undang-undang pemilihan semula jadi. Seperti yang digunakan pada institusi manusia bahawa apapun adalah salah. Dari sudut pendirian evolusi, institusi semasa adalah salah satu untuk beberapa peringkat kerana mereka tidak berubah dengan cepat untuk selaras dengan masa, lambat berubah dan ketinggalan zaman. Veblen's good and upsloping demand curve. Utiliti penggunaan yang ketara untuk barangan Veblen tidak tetap kerana harga selalu berubah-ubah apabila ia jatuh, apabila harga menurun dan meningkat apabila harga bertambah. Contohnya, utiliti ni mungkin jatuh jika harga kereta mahal dipotong separuh. So maksudnya kalau harga kereta tu macam 100,000 tapi dia bahagi dua, dia half, jadi harga tu turun lah. Utiliti ni akan jatuh jika sesuatu harga tu jatuh. Okay, lastly adalah serangan terhadap ekonomi neoklasik. Okay, teori Veblen ni tentang laissez-faire telah membentuk serangan terhadap ekonomi neoklasik yang menganggap bahawa pengguna adalah berdaulat. Menurut ahli ekonomi neoklasik melalui Dolevot, mereka pengguna menentukan komposisi komuniti yang telah dihasilkan dan oleh itu peruntukan sumber masyarakat yang akan memaksimumkan kebajikan. Tetapi jika sebahagian besar penggunaan dilakukan terutamanya untuk menarik perhatian jiran yang berusaha untuk membalas dengan membeli barangan yang serupa untuk mengekalkan status relatif mereka, maka kerajaan ini mungkin dapat meningkatkan kesejahteraan keseluruhan dengan menyekat penggunaan yang membazir oleh semua orang. Veblen juga telah menuduh golongan neoklasik menyokong skim pengalihan kekayaan dan pendapatan sekarang. Teori standard yang dia fikir bukanlah teori yang apa-apa, tetapi hanya cerita rakyat atau teologi yang digunakan untuk mewajarkan harta peribadi dan pendapatan harta benda. Okey, ekonomi perniagaan telah dibangunkan untuk mempertahankan komoditi perniagaan dan soalan yang diajukan dan cuba dijawabnya tidak relevan kepada penduduk secara keseluruhan. Veblen ini mementingkan ekonomi sosial dan bukannya ekonomi perniagaan, harga, keuntungan dan pemilikan. Akhirnya adalah menarik untuk diperhatikan bahawa Veblen ini menyerang tanggapan persaingan sempurna yang kemudiannya menguasai teori ekonomi standard. Beliau menyedari bahawa kebanyakan ahli perniagaan mempunyai kawalan monopoli terhadap harga yang mereka cas dan mereka menggunakan pengiklanan untuk mengukuhkan kedudukan pasaran mereka. Okey, analisis ini yang telah diterbitkan pada tahun 1904 telah meramalkan kebangkitan teori persaingan monopoli pada tahun 1933. Itu sahaja daripada saya. Sekian, terima kasih.
Next is we are looking at another economist in the institutional school, which is Wesley Clare Mitchell. He was born at 5 August 1874 at US as an American. His background, Education background is he got a PhD at the University of Chicago, 1899. Is a background as a teacher, teaching economic subject at University of Chicago from 1899 till 1903, and also follow up with the assistant professor and also professor economics at the University of California and also professor at the Columbia University. His biggest contribution is a empirical research on business cycles. Michel was a Webelian brilliant student. While Veblen gives institutionalism of a philosophy and a theory, his analysis on a business fluctuation gave institutionalism its empirical bent. He focused more on empirical studies compared to Veblen, which depends on a speculation. He believed that his statistical studies could provide firmer foundation for Veblen's prior work. To the importance of the empirical investigation. First, economic science of human behavior. Second is about the future of the discipline, which is moving toward more research and less theory. And next is economics will develop more fruitful in the future upon the quantitative side. And the next is the National Bureau of Economic Research, which Michel founded in 1920. The NBER launched one of the first comprehensive studies of the amount and the distribution of the national income. And lastly, the NBR published a vast bulk of statistical analysis. So, business cycle. Business cycle, which is the study of business fluctuation, was Michel's greater contribution before the emergence of a Great Depression and a Keynes book. The general theory of the employment, interest, and the money. Business cycle theory approach a test explanation of an experience instead of an exercise in a logic. Michel empirical work on the business cycle lead to four conclusions, which is business fluctuation arise in the money economy. Business cycle are widely diffused throughout the economy. Business fluctuation depend on the prospect of for profit, and lastly, fluctuation are systematically generated by the economy itself. Lastly, take a look at the social planning, which is the frequent recurrence of the economic crisis and the depreciation in evidence that the automatic functioning of our business system is defected. The task that in the promote carefully social planning and also national planning to overcome the worst features of the business fluctuation while preserving economic liberty and also increasing the security. Mission reliance on a national planning to ameliorate the human condition was based partially on his pragmatic psychology. He also defended social planning, denying that it is an un-American. The greatest difficulty in a social planning has been to agree on what we wish to accomplish. And the second thing is derived from the interdependency of a social process. Why social planning must consider both direct and indirect efforts of social actions. National planning is inevitable, said by the Michel.
I am Alia Hamidi Asmawi and my matrix number is 287940. Now I'll be presenting about John Kenneth Galbraith. So John Kenneth Galbraith was a renowned economist, diplomat and writer. He was born in 1908 and passed away in 2006. Galbraith made significant contributions to economics, particularly in the area of macroeconomics and the study of the influence of institutional economics on socio-political structures. His major writing constitutes both an attack on neoclassical economic thought and an analysis of modern capitalists. Some of his profession includes Chief Economist of American Farm Bureau Federation, membership on the board of editors of Fortune magazine, novelist, chairman of American Democratic Action, professor of economics at Harvard University, ambassador to India under Kennedy administration, and an expert on Far Eastern art. John Kenneth Galbraith was critical of what he refers to the conventional wisdom, which largely encompassed the prevailing economic ideas of his time, particularly the belief in unregulated free markets and the assumption that individuals act rationally in their own economic pursuit. So Galbraith's criticism were aimed at the highlighting the limitations of neoclassical economic theory in capturing the complexities and the realities of the modern economies, where factors like imperfect competition, influence of corporations, consumer behavior, and income inequality play a significant role. So Galbraith was critical of the tendency in economics to cling rigidly to established theories, even when they were no longer applicable or relevant to the contemporary economic landscape. He argued that economic ideas and policies should be flexible and adaptable to accommodate with shift in the economy, technological advancement and social changes. Essentially, Galbraith's viewpoint stressed the need for economists and policymakers to open to rethinking and adjusting economic theories and policies to better reflect the evolving realities of the world. He believed that static approach to economic thought would be inadequate in addressing the complexities of the current modern economics. He came up with two theories in which the dependence effect and theory of firm. The dependence effect is a concept introduced by him in his book The Affluent Society. This concept challenges the traditional economic assumption that individual wants or desire are independent of their own economic pursuit. He argued that in modern affluent societies, production techniques and advertising is a significant role in shaping and creating the wants and needs of the consumers. He contended that as production methods become more sophisticated and advertising more pervasive, consumers' preferences were increasingly influenced and often manufactured by the industries producing goods. The crucial point of the dependence effect is that the production, through advertising and marketing, can manipulate consumer desires, in which he believed that instead of consumers independently determining on what they want to consume or what they want to buy, those industries were highly dictated these desires through marketing strategies. So consequently, this relationship between production and consumption becomes a cycle where production influences and created wants. This concept challenges the classical economic notion that production is merely means to create or produce a pre-existing consumer wants. Galbraith agreed that in modern economies, production itself plays a pivotal role in shaping and stimulating these wants, resulting in a society where consumption patterns are influenced more by production capabilities and advertising than by their own genuine consumer preferences. In essence, the dependence effect questions the assumption of consumer sovereignty in a world where production and advertising heavily influence and create this want and needs. Traditionally, in the traditional economic theories, business make things that people already want to buy. But Galbraith's theories emphasize that economists create this desire by advertising and making products seem appealing. So instead of just satisfying our wants, they also influence and create those wants through advertising or clever marketing. For example, if we see an advertisement for a new phone, we might not have felt the need to buy it, but the advertisements make it seem so great that suddenly you want to buy the new phones. So these effects were what we refers to the dependence effects. So this is what Galbraith called the dependence effect, where it suggests that what we think or what we want is often influenced by what the business are selling rather than purely our independent desires. According to Galbraith, he was critical of the notion that economic power and wealth were distributed fairly or equitably in society. He highlighted the concept of social imbalance, which refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, income, and power among individuals and groups within a society. To address this imbalance, Galbraith advocated for policies that aim to mitigate inequality, such as progressive taxation, increased government intervention in regulating markets, and social programs designed to provide support and opportunities for less affluent segments of societies. The second theory he came up with, theory of firm. His work incorporated elements that contributed to the understanding of how firm
operate in the modern economy. He emphasized the role of large corporations in shaping economic activities and society as a whole. One of his key ideas is that large corporations, due to the size and influence, operate differently from the idealized competitive model that often depicted in the traditional economic theory. He argued that these big corporations, big firms, has substantial market power, which allows them to exert control over prices and productions and even influence government policy. He introduced the concept of technostructure within corporations. This refers to the managerial hierarchy that have the power of making decisions within large firms. So this technostructure serve for multiple purposes. Galbraith introduced the concept of protective and affirmative purpose in his analysis of modern economy. So one of the main purpose is for the firm to survive. But how? By taking product prices out of competition. This refers to the idea that in certain markets, especially those dominated by large corporations or where product differentiation is significant, competition is not primarily based on price. They are not competing based on price. It may be due to other several reasons such as product differentiation, competition beyond price, and less emphasis on price. Product differentiation means that a company often create unique product, branding, or perceived value in their goods. Competition beyond price means that instead of solely competing on price or marketing their products on lower prices, they focus on making their product to be more high quality or innovations or branding. Hence, this will make a rival firms earn a satisfactory level of profit. The second one is affirmative approach, in which to ensure the corporate growth. The corporate growth in context is that growth in output, sales, and revenues provide enhanced job security and financial rewards for the professional elites within these corporations. So contradict to the traditional economics firm theory, which is these firms focus on expanding their market share, investing heavily in advertising, merging with other companies, and employing strategies to increase sales volume rather than solely aiming for maximum profit. So these growth-oriented strategies take precedence over the traditional profit maximization goal in these large corporation entities. Galbraith's theories on modern capitalism led to several policy implications. First one is control over pricing. Galbraith advocated for public control over pricing of goods and services produced by large corporations. He suggested that the establishment of a permanent public price and wage agency to regulate prices in the economy. Second is governmental economic planning. He proposed the formation of a public planning authority to coordinate economic activities in conjunction with major corporations and unions. This planning entity would also coordinate economic plans internationally with other industrialized nations. Third is income redistributions. Galbraith recommended income redistribution through measures such as progressive taxation, control of executive salaries, increasing in the minimum wage, and implementing a negative income tax plan. Next is reevaluations of antitrust efforts. He argued against traditional antitrust measures, suggesting the attempts to restrain the growth and power of large corporations through antitrust law would be ineffective due to the technological forces and economies of scale. So next is encouragement of market sector growth. Galbraith proposed that encouraging mergers among smaller firms in the market sector to bolster their competitiveness against the dominance of large planning sector corporations.